Welcome to video number 9 of Michael Rosmer and John Su's video Battlethon, inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk. So today's video, I'm going to do another chapter out of Laws of Success, Napoleon Hill. And it was interesting, it's a chapter that I skipped over because I didn't notice it was there, but then when I was flipping through it, I found it. I was like, this is a great chapter to actually do one on, because in the self-development world, you always hear people say the only thing you have 100% control over is yourself. And I'm not going to say that's not true, but I'm going to ask the question is, to create some curiosity and maybe some doubt around that, is if we truly had control of ourselves 100%, then how do moments of when we lose control of ourselves happen? Right? If it's just a shift of mind saying, yeah, I can control myself, and it's a skill I need to learn, right? That, it's an absolute thing of 100% me. How is it that we lose control? And if everything's 100% you, how is it that you believe other people? Like sometimes in life, somebody will convince you of something that necessarily you don't believe in, and over time they change your mind. So really, I just wanted to kind of question the idea of absolute control. Does it really exist? It only exists if you also realize that in having absolute control over your life, that also means having absolutely no control over your life. And what I mean by that is when you realize that you have, illusion, control itself is pretty much the story we tell ourselves. And people who desire control or drive for control of themselves are the people who feel in their mind have the least amount of control. So really, in this book, they pitched the thing about, absolute control, and I just say it's not a complete idea. It's a half idea that kind of is impossible to achieve all of the time, and at best it happens 50% of the time. And really, when it's about 100% control of our thoughts and stuff, our thoughts even are influenced by stuff outside of us. So is it 100% us? No, it's not. And kind of what I've come to realize is having absolute control and knowing that you have absolutely no control, and it's actually a blend of control and not control. That's kind of when you start to, I guess, lose your desire to kind of want to make things happen, or as opposed to it's going to be a combination of making things happen, and then when things don't go your way, you just kind of roll with the water until you can kind of find something to grab onto. Because there's a lot of people in life, doesn't matter how good you are, how rich you are, nothing goes 100% their way. And it goes, a lot of the times when you feel like you have control of your life, most things happen in your way, but what, if you really look at it from a second person perspective, it happened partially because of you, but also partially because of other people, and also partially because of the situation, right? It's a partial equal effect on, I guess, the result, or the whatever you want to call it. But it's never 100% you, it's never 100% them, it's never 100% the situation. It's equal factors of each, yourself, others, and situation that creates events. It's just our illusion that we have more or less control, right? You always hear it, it's perception, all it depends on the situation. And that's why, the absolute truth of the matter is, it's those things equally affecting the result. So 100% control, everybody thinks it's like so fantastic, and how do we say is, the more control we have, that we think we have in our mind, it's even more stressful when things don't happen that you don't expect. Like people who kind of are, how would I say, victims of life on the one extreme side, whatever happens, they're like, oh yeah, totally out of my control. So it's kind of like you're being taken care of in a carefree kind of way. So you don't stress as much as the person who's like, yeah, I've got everything down. And you know those people who are like military about how they do things. They manage things so tight, they're like super micromanagers. But when, shit hits the fan that they didn't expect, then they kind of lose their shit. Right? So kind of when you look at it, the actual balance is having both, I guess, the nimbleness and adaptability of, controlling what you can control, and when things go out of control, just roll with it. And this is kind of what I'm getting at is, in my opinion, the true mastery is not doing just having absolute control or giving up control, but it's the use of both depending on the situation. And it's pretty much when you can control the things you can control, and then are okay to flow with the things that you can't control until you can kind of grasp onto something, you are the most nimble and adaptive than any other person. Because otherwise, like when you think about stress is when you're using conscious effort to try to change something that you think shouldn't be. But if you're, it's kind of like swimming against upstream, as opposed to if you're rolling with everything, say, oh, okay, you know what, I don't know what's happening. Let it play out a little bit more, and then when I see something, I'm gonna go in there. So it's kind of like floating down river, and then you're just kind of watching, not paddling, and just kind of doing the back float, and then you're like, oh my god, there's a branch, and you're gonna grab onto it. So that's kind of, in my opinion, that's using your full energy, your full thought, and effective use of energy. Because when you're fighting things, you expend a lot more energy, and that's why people kind of, who live in the black and white of good and bad, half of their life is flowing amazingly, and half of their life they're fighting a battle. But if you learn to kind of roll with the good, just like you roll with the bad, then you're kind of just flowing with the river. And when you're fighting, that's kind of, I guess, a necessary passage to, how we say, blending both skill sets. Because when you try to use one and it works for a bit, you're like, yeah, I got it, and then it doesn't start. Then there comes a point where it doesn't work, and then you got to use the other one. So it's kind of going back and forth, where it's just using one of the skills, either all mastery or totally out of control. And then when you kind of do it more and start using it and switching it back and forth, and they start spinning a lot, you kind of turn, how we say, absolute control and totally out of control into one skill set, right? And it's the skill set of doing. So that's my 2 cents, 7 videos, and I want to go any further because then I can't upload it from my phone. Thanks, Rosmer. Back to you.